I'm Jack Toma, and this is my review of Captain America, the First Avenger. I'm going to later review Captain America Winter Soldier to lead up to the giant clash between the superheroes, which will hopefully end this trilogy well, Captain America Civil War, which I'm super excited for, which will be coming out in a couple weeks at the timing of this review I'm filming. Just so you know that because this movie is like 5 years old, I will be going over it thoroughly and not restraining on spoilers. So if you want to go in this movie fresh, if you haven't seen it, I would not watch this video. This is for people who've actually seen it, who just want to hear my opinion. And I feel a little disappointed in my younger self, which actually was just a couple of years ago when me and DeAndre made this ranking of the MCU movies, because I really put Captain America pretty low, because when I looked back on this movie, I liked it, but I didn't think it was I didn't remember it as anything that special. I thought it had a much more problems that, but so I put it pretty low. In fact, it was second to last after Iron Man 2, which I'm really not happy that I did that, because rewatching it, it's a really good movie, and most of the flaws I remembered at it didn't even really exist. But let's first start off with the main character himself, Captain America. Steve Rogers is a very likable character. He's just a good man and very moral. You just wish you could be him. It makes you instantly connect with him. And Chris Evans just does a great job of capturing that. And he just wants to serve his country, but like, because of his frail physique and all these illnesses, he can't. And the effects to capture this were amazing, but you really do connect with him. So you do really understand, because of how moral he is, why he was chosen, as the movie puts it, to do the experiment. And the effects really do capture it. I can't stress that enough. People kind of say now that the effects look off now, but maybe a couple shots here and there, but to me it really stood through, and you can't really tell. But anyway, they really did take a very silly superhero and really did both update him in the ways to make him people take him seriously, but did keep the roots of the superhero. And I think one of the ways they did that was keeping it in World War II and making it a period piece, and really do capture that time period really well, especially even the way they film it, which it just has that kind of hint that makes you all feel like it happened a while ago. Also, they do make fun of how corny the costume really is, the traditional costume, in this kind of rally where they have him basically just do shows to try to sell bonds for the war, which they really do give him the corniest version of the costume ever, and just embrace it, because they don't get, but then they do update the costume and make it more look more like a military costume, but still looking like Captain America. But I do like how they do make fun of the original costume and how corny Captain America can be, especially in the older movies like the 1990s movie, where they literally give an exact adaptation of the costume. And while costumes like that can work in comics and even cartoons, it cannot work in live action. And the 1990s movie definitely proved that. And I'm glad they were able to update it enough to make it look good and stay to a Captain America-like costume. Now let's go on to the side characters. The first one you obviously have to talk about is Haley Atwell as Agent Peggy Carter. I definitely like her character. In fact, she's a very popular character, that she showed up, had minor roles throughout all the movies, even in the modern ones, and even got 2 seasons of her own television show. And you do really like her in this movie, and I thought the relationship was handled really well, as it's very subtly done, and it's not like they're deeply in love throughout the whole thing. In fact, they don't even kiss till like the very end of the movie, and it's both very well done, and you really do buy into it. In fact, I'm kind of disappointed that they have to probably find a new love interest for Captain America, because he's in the modern movies now. But anyway, another side character that I really liked was Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan. I like this movie. I really liked this movie when I first saw it, but after years of watching it, it kind of wore off on me. But even then, I kind of didn't care for Bucky when I first watched it, and I didn't buy into their friendship as much, so I didn't feel as sad when he died. But then, I don't know what younger me was thinking then either, because I really liked this guy. He's very likable. He has some funny lines here and there, and I really bought in their friendship. They really do have this bond, and you did feel generally sad when he did die. So I'm not sure what I was thinking back then. Basically, I'm thinking this video is just here to say I'm stupid, and I did not like this movie as much as I should have. Another great side character is Stanley Tucci as Abraham Erskine, which is also very likable and has a bunch of funny lines, which is kind of general for Stanley Tucci to do. And you do really understand his motives for choosing Steve, and his backstory is very interesting, on how he was kind of there when the Nazis took over, and how the villain kind of forced him into creating him. It's a very interesting backstory, and you do feel very sad when he dies and feel his loss in the movie. And other minor side characters like Tommy Lee Jones gives a nice added presence to the movie. And I think having Dominic Cooper as Howard Stark was a nice little tie-in to the modern movies, because although he's not as good as Robert Downey Jr., which is kind of impossible for someone to do, but you can tell that they are related. I think he was also well done enough, and this movie didn't feel like it had too many forced tie-ins. Basically, Howard and the Tesseract, which was supposed to be a lead into the Avengers, are like the only tie-ins to this movie. Even though it's kind of funny that the Tesseract was originally supposed to be a version of the Cosmic Cube, but because of the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, they kind of changed it to one of the 6 Infinity Stones, which, when you look back at it still works, because it's supposed to be the Space Stone, and whenever people disappear when they're shot with the guns, you can always just assume that they were teleported somewhere in space and then died. Another great thing about this movie is the action. When I looked back on this movie, I thought it had great characters and personal moments, but I didn't remember a ton of good action. But looking at it, it had a ton of good action. Like, the first action scene I remember is about how Captain America chasing down the Hydra infiltrator via that car chase, and then chasing down in the submarine. It was very well done. And that montage, just seeing Captain America jump around, beating up the Hydra goons, especially with that shield. Now, the modern Marvel movies are trying to keep coming up with new ways to make the shield, new ways to use the shield. But this movie, I'm just glad they were able to capture the classic way so well. And of course, you forget, with all the new cool ways they're using it. But just seeing him throw it and knock it over and have it come back, it's just really cool to see again. And just seeing him jump around, beating people up like the old-fashioned way, just like that old cover where he's just running and punching Hitler on the jaw, which is another great reference in those old corny shows where he actually punches actor of Hitler on the jaw. The music is very good. If this movie really gets you in the patriotic feel, and any example of this is the main theme. Even if you don't want to see the movie, listen to the main theme of Captain America: First Avenger. It'll get you that American movie. Okay, now let's move on to the villains. This is a highly controversial thing for Marvel movies, because most people say that the villains, other than Loki, are pretty weak, even though personally I like most of the villains in the Marvel movies. Yeah, there are villains that suck, like the Iron Man sequels and Malekith and Thor: The Dark World and Ronan. They all suck. I'm not trying to say that they're all masterpiece villains. And no, they're not all deeply complex villains like Loki, but some of them are just generally good villains. Like, this is just a typical this is a classic Nazi villain, but they do give him an interesting edge on having a superiority thing on believing, because he has the super soldier, he is a superior race, and with the Tesseract, he believes he's basically a god, and to show it off, he wants to destroy most of the world. And just the way he expresses that does it very interesting, especially the way he communicates to Captain America and how he believes he is superior, and you do believe he thinks that. And it's definitely illustrated very well Hugo Weaving. I thought he really did a great job with this performance, and I'm wondering if it would have worked as well if it wasn't Hugo Weaving. Which, now I'm really hope that they either don't bring him back if they can't get Hugo Weaving back, or try to get Hugo Weaving back, because I can't really think of anyone who could do this well. The makeup was very well done to make him look like the Red Skull. He looked just like the comics. I'm very glad they did use practical effects and makeup for the most part, and just use CGI to make it look a little more convincing. So, and I definitely think he does have a very good presence. In fact, Hydra has a very good presence. Even that slogan, "cut off one head, 2 more shall take its place," just has a very threatening tone to it. And it didn't really get that meme levity till Winter Soldier came out, because that was obviously the more popular movie. The other villain, Artem Zola, I thought was a pretty decent villain, played by Toby Jones. He was just a sign of a side villain, even though kind of a continuity error I've noticed with later movies is they introduce him later and he looks like this. He's kind of like the Red Skull, being a big Hydra follower and constantly trying to spread it. But in this movie, he always seems kind of hesitant, and he's kind of just going along with it to stay alive. So it's just kind of a little continuity error. But overall, he is a decent character. Um, One problem I do have with this movie is some things aren't as developed as maybe they should be. Like, although I did buy the friendship of Captain America and Bucky, I didn't really buy it as much as I probably should have. Maybe a little more time should have been devoted to that. But overall, I think that still worked. But one thing that definitely need more time are the Howling Commandos. They got, like, there's only a couple of them I really felt like I knew. But they are very likable, and you did feel they had that camaraderie that they needed. But I do wish I would have known them a little better in this movie. Now let's talk about the climax of the movie, which personally one of the best action scenes. But even though one thing about this climax, although really good, is I would have wished that fight with him and the Red Skull would have been a little better, because it's a good fight, but it's nothing that special, especially compared to some of the other Marvel crossovers, like having the Ironmonger versus Iron Man, Thor versus Loki. Those were all really good battles. And do I even have to mention how great the fight between Hulk and Abomination is? In my opinion, other than the Avengers, which of course has the best climax, the Incredible Hulk had the best climax of the first 5 Phase 1 Marvel movies. But of course it couldn't be the Avengers. So, in fact, they kind of build up this fight between them, with just having them throw a couple punches and having them separate it, and it feels like these two are really powerful. I can't wait to have them have a really big fight. And it's good fight, but it's short, and still kind of short, and it's nothing too special. And in the end, Red Skull takes himself out, which I really didn't kind of off, because yeah, I understand you want to keep your hero moral, because that's kind of the main thing of Captain America, but just having the villain take himself out is just kind of stupid. But then the ending of the movie, I think, is one of the best parts of the movie. Just seeing how Captain America has put the plane in the water, or tons of people are going to die, and just him saying goodbye to Peggy, and they're just talking about having a date that they know they're never going to have, as he has to sacrifice himself, which is a very sad moment, and very much get connected to it, and feel it as he has to crash, and you do feel sad when he's gone, because I guess, yeah, if you were keeping track of all the Avenger movies, you knew he's going to have to be in the Avengers. And then just having him wake up in modern day is just great. Of course, seeing Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury again, just tying it all in and introducing him to become the Avengers is just great. And of course, that just tragic last line of him saying, "I had a date," is just so sad. Overall, this is just a fun action movie. Joe Johnston, the director, I think really captures it, especially with some of his old movies like The Rocketeer. It just follows that with having a likable character, fighting the Nazis, which is a very classic villain, and just having a lot of fun with this. It's either full of good action or great character moments. Overall, I understand if you don't like this movie, because it can be corny at some points, and maybe they don't develop some things as much as they should, but I really like this movie. I'm sad that I didn't remember how good it was. So I highly suggest you see this movie if you haven't yet. So I say that I give Captain America, the First Avenger, 8 out of 10. Well, that'll be my end of this review, and I'll come back later with Captain America, Winter Soldier, which in my opinion is even better. In fact, it's the best Marvel movie. So, see ya. Bye.